You know this story. He is the schemer, the manipulator, the man behind the curtain of the Mahabharata's greatest catastrophe. While kings fought and warriors died and Dharma collapsed, he sat in the shadows rolling dice, always watching, always waiting for exactly the right moment to tip everything into ruin. Shakuni, the maternal uncle of the Kauravas, the man who engineered the dice game that destroyed the Pandavas, humiliated Draupadi, and started a war that killed 18 million people. You know it like this. Shakuni was the prince of Gandhara, what is now Afghanistan, who came to Hastinapura when his sister Gandhari married the blind king Dhritarashtra. He hated the Kuru dynasty. He spent decades poisoning Duryodhana against the Pandavas, engineering their destruction through manipulation, trickery, and a fixed dice game. He was clever, where others were strong, devious where others were honest. He is the Mahabharata's master villain. That is the story you know. Now let me tell you what the regional versions, the folk traditions, and the careful reading of the text itself reveal about why Shakuni did what he did. It was never about hatred. It was about a sister. The version of Shakuni that most people know treats him as a pure villain and defined entirely by his cunning and his hatred. He is often portrayed as gleeful in his manipulation, as if the destruction of a dynasty is a game he enjoys for its own sake. But here is what is strange. In the Mahabharata itself, if you read it carefully, Shakuni never acts randomly. Every move he makes, every manipulation he engineers, every whisper in Duryodhana's ear, it all points in one direction. Not toward power, not toward personal gain. He accumulates nothing for himself. He takes no kingdom, no wealth, no title. He lives in Hastinapura for decades as a guest, eating another family's food, sleeping under another family's roof. A man who schemes purely for power does not live like this. A man who schemes for something else does. The scholar Alf Hiltibeitel, in his analysis of the Mahabharata's character construction, noted that Shakuni is one of the text's most deliberately constructed figures, a man whose motivation is systematically obscured in the main text but visible in the regional and folk traditions that surround it. When you find that motivation, the entire Mahabharata shifts. Go back, before the dice game, before Hastinapura, before the war, go back to Gandhara. Gandhara was a real kingdom in what is now northwestern Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan, a kingdom of traders, scholars, and warriors. It sat at the crossroads of the ancient world, where the Silk Road would later run, where cultures from Persia, Central Asia, and India met and merged. The king of Gandhara had a daughter, Gandhari, brilliant, devout, described in the text as a woman of extraordinary virtue. Her horoscope, however, contained a terrible prediction. Her first husband would die young. Her father, to neutralize this curse, did what was done in those times. He married her first to a goat. The goat became her first husband. The curse would fall on the goat, not on the human husband who followed. The goat was then killed, making Gandhari, technically, a widow before her real marriage. When Bhishma of the Kuru dynasty arrived to arrange Gandhari's marriage to Dhritarashtra, he was told this, that Gandhari had been previously married to a goat, and that the goat was dead. The Kuru dynasty took this information and used it. In the folk traditions of what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan, the traditions closest to Gandhara's own memory, this is where the story changes everything. The Kauravas did not simply accept this information. They used it as an excuse to imprison the entire Gandhara royal family. Bhishma, or agents of the Kuru court, imprisoned Gandhari's father and all her brothers. Their reasoning, a family that would marry their daughter to a goat to circumvent a curse, was practicing deception against the Kuru bloodline. In prison, with no food, the family made a collective decision. All food would go to one person. One would survive to carry the family's honor. One would remember. They chose Shakuni. His father and brothers starved to death around him while he ate their portions. He survived on the food of his dying family. Before his father died, he gave Shakuni two things: his own thigh bones to be carved into dice, and a purpose. Let us talk about the dice, because this is where the story becomes truly haunting. The dice that Shakuni used in the game that destroyed the Pandavas, the dice that are the central symbol of his villainy in the entire Mahabharata, were carved from his dead father's thigh bones. This is not a detail buried in obscure tradition. Multiple regional versions of the Mahabharata included. The dice were not a gambler's tool. They were a weapon, consecrated by the death of the man who made him. His father's dying instruction was this: go to Hastinapura, destroy the Kuru dynasty from within. Do not use a sword, do not fight them openly, make them destroy themselves. The dice would always obey Shakuni not through magic, but because they were his father's bones, the most intimate instrument of destruction ever devised. A man playing dice with the bones of his father against the family that killed his family to fulfill a dead man's last wish. Every throw of the dice in that famous game was not gambling. It was a funeral rite. The mainstream Mahabharata treats Gandhari's blindfolding her choice to cover her eyes permanently upon marrying a blind man as an act of pure wifely devotion, noble, self-sacrificing, the ideal of a woman subordinating herself completely to her husband. But look at what Gandhari does in the text, not what she says, what she does. She raises 100 sons, every single one of whom dies in the war. She curses Krishna after the war and her curse kills him. She is described as possessing a power so immense that when she finally removes her blindfold and looks at Yudhishthira, her direct gaze would have killed him if Krishna had not intervened. This is not the portrayal of a submissive woman. This is the portrayal of a woman of terrifying power who chose for reasons of her own to keep it contained. And her brother watched. For decades, Shakuni watched his brilliant, powerful sister keep her eyes covered in a palace that had imprisoned their family. Every day in Hastinapura was a reminder. Every meal in the Kuru palace was a reminder. Every son Gandhari birthed into a dynasty built on her family's destruction was a reminder. He never forgot. He never let himself forget. In the folk traditions of the Pashtun people, the descendants of those who once lived in Gandhara, Shakuni is not a villain, he is a hero. He is the man who refused to let his family's death mean nothing, who sat for decades in the palace of the people who killed his father and brothers, ate their food, smiled at their festivals, played with their children and waited, not from cowardice, from the most demanding kind of courage. The courage of patience. Think about what Shakuni's life in Hastinapura actually was. Every day he woke up in the palace of his enemies. Every day he watched his sister move through those halls with covered eyes. Every day he rolled his father's bones between his fingers and remembered what he was there to do. He could not grieve openly. He could not rage openly. He could not be seen to hate, because the moment the Kauravas knew what he was doing, it was over. So he became what they needed him to be. The harmless uncle, the cheerful gambler, the man who tells good stories and makes Duryodhana laugh. For 40 years. 40 years of performance. 40 years of smiling at the men whose family killed his family. 40 years of rolling his father's bones in his pocket and waiting for the right moment. The dice game was not an impulse. It was not even a plan. It was the culmination of a 40-year vigil. And none of this is the part of Shakuni's story that nobody talks about. This is. Shakuni loved his sister. Not as a tool, not as a symbol of Gandhara's humiliation. He loved Gandhari the way you love someone you have watched suffer for decades and been unable to help directly. The way you love someone when love has nowhere to go except inward, where it sits and ferments into something much darker than affection. Every manipulation Shakuni engineered in Hastinapura had a logic that pointed back to her. The dynasty that had used his sister as a political transaction, as a wife to be arranged, a curse to be managed, a womb to produce heirs, he would make that dynasty consume itself. Not by attacking it from outside, by feeding it. By making Duryodhana more Duryodhana, by amplifying every jealousy, every pride, every rage that was already there. He did not create the Kuru dynasty's darkness, he found it and gave it water. The war that killed 18 million people was not Shakuni's war. It was the Kuru dynasty's war, made inevitable by its own nature. Shakuni simply ensured it happened before he died. On the 18th day of the war, Shakuni was killed by Sahadeva, the youngest Pandava, the one who had been prophesied to kill him. Shakuni's last recorded words in some traditions are addressed to Sahadeva. He thanks him because dying at Kurukshetra meant that his mission was complete. The Kuru dynasty was destroyed. His father's bones had done their work. He could put them down. He died the only way he had ever wanted to die, having finished what he came to do. The story of Shakuni has been told across 3,000 years as a warning against cunning, against manipulation, against the man who poisons the ear of power and watches civilizations burn for his own purposes. That reading is not wrong. What Shakuni did was catastrophic. 18 million people died. A dynasty was destroyed. Children lost their fathers. Mothers buried their sons. No private grief justifies this. But more recently, in contemporary retellings, in literary re-examinations, in the growing conversation about the Mahabharata's complexity, a different Shakuni is emerging. Not a hero, but a man who loved someone and had no acceptable way to show it. There is a reason this version resonates so deeply right now. We live in a world full of Shakuni's circumstances, people who have been wronged by systems too large to fight directly, whose grief has no official channel, whose love has nowhere to go, people who carry their father's bones in their pockets and smile at dinner parties. The Mahabharata understood that the most dangerous person in any room is not the one who hates openly. It is the one who has been waiting. Shakuni waited 40 years. He rolled his father's bones. He watched his sister walk blind through the halls of the people who blinded her world, and he smiled. Every single day, for 40 years, he smiled. Script by Grey Wall Stories. Every wall holds a story. Some walls were built by a man who smiled while he built them.